I have a totally off-topic question for you
Sure.
that's related to Thai work. You had shared a post kind of making fun of a lot of things that the industry typically says,
Yeah.
and one of the things was that they release fascia.
Yeah.
So if you don't think fascia can be released, you saying elongated, softened, what's your perspective?
I had a major, well, there's an ongoing debate. So, do you know who Chad Bolding is?
I don't think so.
Yeah, Chad is a colleague of mine. He's in our private subscribers group, the Reboot Insiders Club. Chad and
Mhm.
I have regular phone calls, and we go head to head on a million different things. And Chad is not so fond of the pain science community in our industry.
Mm,
And I don't want to misquote him, but like we kind of argue about this. And then a colleague of mine is Walt Fritz. I'm sure you've heard me talk about Walt before.
I've heard
Yeah,
you mention it.
and Walt is, I mean, he's dead center in the pain science community. I even posted a little meme he made. It was kind of like the Bernie meme, but he was talking about Fox. Did you see where I shared that?
Yes, that's the
Yeah,
one I'm talking about.
yeah. Because I shared that because it's like I like when Walt like I like when he uses social media. And I'm encouraging my colleague who's pain science oriented because I get along with Walt. And part of the reason I got along with Walt is because Walt didn't look down on me.
Mm,
Walt didn't for 2 seconds look at me like, well, you could never understand what I'm doing because I'm a physical therapist. He just went, Robert, listen, the pain science, it doesn't change anything about what we do
mhm.
at all. It's not going to change your body work. You're already doing great body work. It's going to change the interpretation of why it works to begin with. And I was like, oh, yeah, no, I'm totally cool with that. In Thai massage circles, that is not a popular opinion. They're
Mm,
like, well, it's got to be traditional. And I'm like, medical traditions that go back 2,000 years don't include antibiotics, bro. Like
yeah.
surgeries, like I'm not real cool with that. So if I talk about fascia, you're talking about that specific post from Walt.
Yeah, something like making fun of people saying that fascia releases, and I didn't know if
So
you just thought that was.
so one, I don't go out and like trash colleagues or like make fun of them in my world. Here's what I understand. I was kind of like for years I kept like I worked on send lines and that worked so far, got me so far. And then it
Mhm.
was like trigger points, and then it was like, here was another layer. And then when I looked at it between send lines and trigger points, I went, this is the same thing.
Mm,
They're speaking two different languages, but this is the same thing. There's only one body,
yeah.
one people, one anatomy, physiology, nervous system.
Mhm.
And then it was like digging for more, and that's where I stumbled into Walt.
Mm,
I'm a big fan of science, and I'm a big fan of asking better questions about what we do and why. I do think that manual therapy and the work we do does have an effect on clients' tissues
mhm.
and on their bodies. But the reason that happens is because we provide a stimulus and their nervous system has a response. So anything that happens to tissue or their bicep or their fascia, those changes happen because of their nervous system. The nervous
Mm,
system is primary. Chad and I
okay.
will sit down and argue about it. He was texting me earlier. He's like, chiropractors adjust the joint. It's not just skin. And I'm like, oh, but that gaseous exchange is just like
Mhm.
the joint, cavitating. And then people in the pain science community will start to argue that it's potentially dangerous because it's such a high velocity, impact. And he's like, yes, but it happens inside the body. You're affecting. And I'm like, Chad, when you interface with skin, you're affecting cutaneous and subcutaneous nerves that go back to their nerves, spinal cord, and brain. It don't get any deeper than that physically. And he's
Interesting.
he's having this like little bit of a battle with me, and I can't describe it well enough scientifically. I can't quote research studies to kind of like Chad and I are still having that little battle, back and forth. It's more the interpretation of why it works
Mm.
than changing the body work itself.
So you're saying instead of physiologically changing the fascia, we're affecting the nervous system, and that is causing the change in the fascia and the muscle tissue.
Yep. But in our community, here's the thing that's happening. And I'll give this to you real quick. So one of the things I added in video, I'm sure you've seen this. You know how I put anatomy on the screen?
Yeah.
Musculoskeletal anatomy is a big part of massage school. It's a big part of the therapist think, well, I'm working on the bicep. I'm working on the tricep. I'm working on the forearm flexors or whatever. If I don't include that anatomy on screen, it's not connecting the therapist to what they already know, because they're very anatomy oriented. I'll work on the arm and go, hey guys, when I put pressure here and roll the hand open, we're affecting pronator teres between the radius and ulna. But in my head, I'm like, listen guys, what I'm really doing is I'm delivering a stimulus into the client's nervous system so that they can respond. If I say that second one without the first, they're like, I don't understand what this guy's talking about. Make sense?
Yep. You're trying to relate to them.
What I'm doing is, and it's not like I don't think I'm having an effect on bone, because we are. If you affect muscle, you affect bone. If you affect tissue and nervous system, do you affect joints? Yes. The skin is the interface. It's like the keyboard. It allows me to interface with the computer. I don't sit down and like put on my website, well, I'm Robert Gardner. I focus on chronic pain management. I'm here to deliver a stimulus into your nervous system so you can respond with relaxation. Now, why do I not say that?
Because it would go right over everyone's heads.
Yeah, I go problem, solution.
Yeah.
I go, hey, you're having back pain? Okay, cool. Where? And they go, it's all, I'm cool, okay. And I'll come over and touch and go, listen, is it sharp? Is it broad? Is it like running down your, and they're like, no, it just runs down my back. And I'm like, cool, let's get to work on it. I don't go into, like, the plumber doesn't have to explain to me that like water rolls downhill.
Right.
I just fix the plumbing, bro.
Yeah.
I don't
You
even
don't care how they get there, as long as they get there.
And that's the thing. If the clients start asking, like, I don't understand, why is this so effective? I had a young guy, he had just finished massage school. He got a session with me and he said, why do you think your work is so effective for chronic pain? And I was like, oof, okay, let me phrase this right. I think the reason is when you put oil over skin, you're sliding over stuff. It is having an effect. Effleurage, it's not bad, it's a good tool. But I think with the work I'm teaching, because I'm not using lubricants, because I'm actually getting a grip, I think the sustained skin stretch from the compression I'm delivering gives the client a more intense stimulus that is sustained so that their nervous system can relax, unwind, and downregulate.
I don't really agree. I mean, I agree, but I don't think that's all of it. But that's a cool perspective.
So why don't you agree?
Well, I follow a lot of Tom Myers anatomy trains. And
hey, Tom, if you see this, come on the podcast. We'll talk about it. If you come on the podcast, we'll talk about it. Go ahead.
No, I have someone you could totally debate for that. My friend John studies under Tom. He would that would be an awesome thing to watch. I don't know. I follow
I'm not saying the work, I'm not saying that the work is ineffective. I'm saying that the explanation behind it could be updated. Is that easier?
Okay.
Is that easier way to say it? Yeah.
Do you think there's merit to the anatomy trains, the fascial connections between the different tissues in our body work?
I'm not as familiar with his curriculum and how he's using that. What's the difference between an anatomy train and a sen line?
They don't relate as well to the sen lines, but they correspond a lot to the meridians in Chinese medicine theory.
Oh, now is Chinese medical theory based on Western reductionist, scientific, studied, verified, double-blind?
Nah,
medicine?
It's based on Qi.
Ah, see? And that's where things get complex. Like I don't want anyone listening to this, if you're a chiropractor, acupuncturist, personal trainer, manual therapist, PT, Like, I'm not trashing body work at all, including like acupuncture. I don't know a lot about it. My old roommate Brett is an acupuncturist in San Antonio. I'm asking deeper questions about why it works.